Hello, my name is Nancy Conway. I'm a sister of St. Joseph, and for 27 years I served as a consultant and facilitator to religious congregations, and then for the last 11 years I've been serving in elected leadership in my own congregation. So the question I'm going to unpack with you today is based really in both of those experiences, as a facilitator who was hired by religious communities and also as an elected leader who hired facilitators. So the question I've been asked to address is, when is it a good time to hire an outside facilitator for a conversation in your congregation? And when might you just want to consider doing it yourself? So let me start with when do I think it might be a good idea for you to hire an outside facilitator? I would say that I think the first reason would be if the issue that you are talking about as a congregation is one where you and your leadership team have strong feelings, have a very strong investment in a particular outcome, and your neutrality might either be somewhat questionable or the perception of your neutrality might be somewhat questionable. This might be an excellent time for you to bring in someone who has absolutely no investment in whatever the outcome might be. The second time I would consider strongly inviting an outside facilitator would be when you are in the unenviable position as a congregation of having factions. And the factions each are holding very tightly to a particular position about the issue at hand. You know, that's a great time for a fresh face, a fresh approach to whatever this issue might be. And the added upside of that is if things go badly during that meeting, it's not on you. The facilitator has the responsibility to figure out how to bring some resolution to the conversation that you have engaged in. Thirdly, I would say if there's a need for information about a topic, so that the context out of which the congregation is having a conversation is a shared context. A shared set of information is available to everyone. So I would consider hiring someone who has the expertise to talk about the content you are going to be dealing with. And then after that, I think you can really have a better conversation because you have a shared set of information that you're talking about. Lastly, I think I would encourage you to have an honest conversation as a leadership group. Is group process and facilitation in your wheelhouse of skill sets as a leadership group? It's a skill set. Not everyone has it. And so if you know that you may have lots of other skills, and I presume that you do, as a collective leadership group, but if group process and facilitation isn't one of them, then I would strongly encourage you to bring in someone from the outside for particular conversations. So those are the four things I think I would offer to you as when I think it's a good thing to involve an outside facilitator. So on the other hand, when might I consider doing it yourself? I think first of all, if it's a pretty straightforward conversation or a fairly simple issue that needs to be resolved with the members, I would strongly encourage you to think about doing that yourself. You know, I've had the experience of being brought in as a facilitator, and the conversation was pretty straightforward, and the members were going, why did they hire her? We really could have had this conversation ourselves. So you have to think about what the issue is. The other thing I think you have to think about is the point at which you are as a congregation. I believe that there are situations where the elected leaders need to step into the space of trust that has been given to you by virtue of your election and have a conversation with the members about particular issues or because of where you are as a group. So I would say if that's kind of one of those intimate times as a congregation where you need to be visible as someone who has the authority to bring an issue forward, I would encourage you to really strongly think about inhabiting that space for the duration of that conversation. So I think the bottom line of what I'm suggesting to you is that I would suggest that you bring a degree of self-awareness to the question of hiring a facilitator or doing it yourself. I'd encourage you not to fall into a pattern about this or fall into a relationship you might have with a particular facilitator and not think about what the issue at hand is or the particular moment in your congregation life. But I also want to say it's not just personal self-awareness. I think as a leadership group, you have to have a collective self-awareness and a collective sense of what do we need and who can provide it. Can we do it ourselves or not? So I'd invite you to have that conversation with each other. First of all, is this a moment when we really need, based on what I've shared with you so far, we really could benefit? Maybe it isn't even a question of need, but the conversation could go in a direction that's beneficial. If someone outside of the congregation is facilitating it, or is this a time where we really could do this ourselves? So that's all the wisdom I have about this. So thank you for listening, and I hope everything goes splendidly for you. Thank you.